Hello, Joshua. We got two people here on this Friday afternoon. We'll wait for some more people to pop up. Joshua, just curious, where are you from? Just interested to know where you watching me from. Hello, Robbie. Hello, Francisco. Hola. Canada. Cool, cool. So you're Canadian. I was in Canada for like 2 weeks. I was in Alberta. Nice place. Canada. When I was in Canada, I didn't really feel like I was in a foreign country or in a new country. It felt pretty much like I was in the United States. I only felt like I was in a different country when I would meet people who had British accents. I saw people there who had Irish accents and Scottish accents. And that's the only time I felt like I was in a different country. But other than that, I felt like I was in the United States. But yeah. Hello, Sean. Let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Hello from Bakersfield, California. I have been to Bakersfield. Thank you very much. Puma 19. I have been to Bakersfield several times. It's right on that point where you're transitioning into Los Angeles. Very good, very good. And isn't that where Korn started the band? I think Korn like put Bakersfield on the map. But do you tell me something? You live in Bakersfield. Do you like living in Bakersfield? And if yes, why? I'm interested to know why people enjoy living in Bakersfield. No, I'm not judging. I'm just interested to know like what is the culture of Bakersfield. Hi Ted, great video about Germany arming Turkey. I have a question. If the Ottoman Empire revives, what do you see the end game being? Do you see them being able to reconquer Greece and the Balkans? Possibly, yeah. I mean, Turkey wants to control all that territory. I definitely see a war happening between Turkey and those regions. Hello, senpai. I'm sure you're familiar with the Hart family. Oh, you're talking to that dude. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who the Hart family is. But yeah, I definitely see a war between Turkey and those regions. Orthodox elders say Turkey will be conquered. Probably, yeah, eventually. I mean, it's inevitable. Like if you have a country that is trying to revive empire and is very destructive, it makes sense that eventually something else would destroy it or control it. Hello, BP Calf Crusader. The whole family was known for pro wrestling. Oh, I see. That's cool. But speaking of Turkey and Germany, I was thinking about something. Yesterday. Before the outbreak of World War II, England had made a deal with Turkey. It was called the Montreux Agreement. I talked about this in one of my prior videos, in one of my recent videos. And in the Montreux Agreement, Turkey was allowed to remilitarize its straits, the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. And part of the Montreux Agreement was that non-Black Sea countries would be limited as to the volume of ships that they could put through the straits. And The reason why the British made this agreement was because the British knew that if they did not give what Turkey wanted, which was the right to remilitarize its straits, and then in return get those limits on the volume of non-Black Sea ships that can go through the straits, Turkey would thus join the Third Reich. So the British wanted Turkey to remain neutral so that they wouldn't have to deal with them in the war like they did in World War I. During the Second World War, the Germans were not able to use Turkey as a route by which to put their naval ships in the Black Sea. And the only way for the Germans to get their ships into the Black Sea was over land. So the Germans were not able to use Turkey as a way to get their ships into the Black Sea because of the Montreux Agreement. Because non-Black Sea countries were and still are heavily limited as to how many ships they can pass through the Straits of Turkey. So now that Turkey is building better ties with Germany, commercially wise, and now Turkey wants to build this canal, which would allow Turkey to bypass the Montreux Agreement and thereby allow Turkey to permit its allies to use the Strait of use the Bosphorus Strait to go into the Black Sea. The Montreux Agreement no longer applies. So if Turkey ever goes to war again and Germany joins Turkey as an ally, as it did in World War I, Turkey could allow the Germans to flood the Black Sea with their navy. And the Russians wouldn't have a say-so. The Russians would not be able to object because the canal is not under the Montreux Agreement. And I just thought about this last night. I think that's pretty crazy. Because what the Montreux Agreement did was it prevented the Nazis from using the Black Sea, from entering the Black Sea. Well, with the canal, Montreux Agreement doesn't apply. And if the Germans ever return to the warpath, they could use that canal in Turkey to flood the Black Sea with their high-tech navy. So basically, I think what's happening is people are looking back into history and they're saying, okay, what mistakes did we make? We weren't able to enter the Black Sea. Why? Montreux Agreement. How do we bypass that? Make a canal. Hello, Guts. Hello, Emmanuel Shahid. What's the topic? Anything you guys want to talk about? Okay, I'm going to try to preserve. I'm going to try to reserve every Friday for you guys to ask me questions or to just shoot the crap with me. This is your time. You want to talk, you want to write me. If you want to ask me about something, if you want to bring up a topic that you want to talk about, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just let me know. And we're good to go. Have you guys ever, this is just, since you guys aren't asking me anything, have you guys ever, someone asked me something here. What do you think about Owen Benjamin? So Owen Benjamin, he is a Jewish guy who criticizes the Jews. I think that he is basically, and this is not a racist statement at all, but I think that Owen Benjamin is the token Jew for people who hate Jews. So if you hate Jews, but you don't want to tell people that you hate Jews, you just say, hey, Owen Benjamin is a Jew, and he agrees with me. I don't trust him. I think that he can be easily utilized for groups like the alt-right. So I don't trust him. I'm not saying that everything he says is wrong. I mean, no one is wrong 100% of the time. But I would say that Owen Benjamin is dangerous in the sense that his mouth could be utilized as a tool for groups like the alt-right. So that's my opinion. Is there a Fourth Reich to come? Yep, absolutely. I've written many articles on this. Did I see that you got a new kitten? Yep, actually, you got 3 new cats recently. So now we have 6 cats. So 2 white cats, a little Russian blue kitten, and then we have a cat. It's a pure black cat, and that's the oldest cat that we have. We've had that cat for 13 years. And then I have like an American tabby, and then I have what do you call it? Egyptian Mao, I think. Very good mouse hunters. I have a phobia with cat. No dogs. No, I have 2 German shepherds. I have a phobia with cats. What is it about cats that scares you? That's what I would like to know. Hello, Mr. Kiwi from New Zealand. I don't want to. You're Mr. JCH24, but I know you're a New Zealander, so hats off to you, Mr. Kiwi. I have 7 cats. Had to bury one, unfortunately. Oh, too bad, man. Sorry about that. My cousin cat attacked me before, and ever since then, I hate being nearby it. Oh, come on. Cat's not going to kill you. German Shepherds are very good dogs, yes. Yeah, the cat's not going to kill you. You know, there's one thing about the Kiwis that I know. It's the Anzacs. Why are Freemasons behind everything? I don't think they're behind everything. I think they were behind a lot of things back in the day, but I think nowadays, you know, they're not behind everything, but they definitely are there, right? And they still do conspire, I believe. What's your comment about recent Biden comments about F-16 and nukes? I don't know. I just got back from the store. I got back from the store a couple of hours ago and got distracted by video games. Let's see. Yahoo News. This is from June. President Joe Biden says at the White House that insurrectionists would need a lot more than guns to take on a U.S. government equipped with a nuclear arsenal and warplanes. So he's saying that you could nuke the right-wing insurgents in the United States. I don't know. I don't really feel too happy. I'm not very. I'm not very optimistic, to be honest with you. I mean, I just saw the news. I think it was yesterday I read this. California says they're not going to use any sort of state funds to fund state travel to states that are against the LGBT. I mean, America is becoming so ridiculously divided. I think that eventually America is going to have some kind of a civil war. We had one in the past. Oh, it's not going to happen again. We had one before. And it looks like it's going to happen again. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but that coup in the White House, that was a sign. That's a sign. The fact that that could happen, the fact that people could go right to the White House and say, hang Mike Pence, murder a police officer, and act like a complete and total mob. It's insane. I think eventually we're going to have some kind of a civil war in this country. I don't think it's going to be a race war, at least not completely, because you have a lot of non-melanated people. You know, you have a lot of, well, hold on, sorry. You have a lot of melanated folks who are right-wing. You have a lot of blacks who are right-wing. You got a lot of Hispanics who are right-wing, and they're going to fight for the right-wing cause. I think it's going to be more lefty versus righty. You're definitely going to have your neo-Nazi types on the right-wing side, and you're definitely going to have your commie types on the left-wing side, your tankies on the left-wing side. But it's going to be more of a left-wing versus right-wing issue than anything else. Is it possible to raise kittens or newborn dogs while having a job? I can't just leave them alone at home, but I really want a cat or dog. Yeah, you could do it. I mean, I wouldn't get a kitten that's like been born a few days ago, but if you can get a cat that's 3 weeks old, 4 weeks old, you could leave it at home just as long as like it can walk around. A cat at 3 or 4 weeks can walk around and just have food and water. I've done it before. I've done it. Nothing's happened. Just make sure you don't have a freaking dog around that'll tear the kitten up. And if you do have a dog around that would do that, and you have to keep the dog in the house, just put the kitten in a room with some food and water and a litter box, and the kitten will be fine. Close the door. Kitten's gonna be fine. You know, don't do anything like reckless, like I don't know, leave the stove on and the kitten will jump up. I don't know. I don't want to think about that. But you can put the kitten in a room, close the door, food, water, and a litter box, and the kitten will be fine. Yeah, he can do it. Do you read Zero Hedge? Sometimes. You read about. I mean, like I had a guy that worked with me. His name was Andrew. He doesn't work with us anymore. He used to read Zero Hedge all the time, and we actually had to tell him like stop posting stuff from Zero Hedge all the time. Be creative. You heard about Canada going from 7? I don't know what that means. Cities are bad nowadays. Yep, absolutely. Cities are crazy violent. Especially now. This whole this whole defund the police thing. You know what that's really about? It's not about stopping racism. If that were the case, they'd all be defending Bill Cosby. It's about they want to bring the purge, man. That's why I watched the Purge films. I watched all the Purge movies, and they're going to have a 4th one. I'm going to watch that one, definitely. But the reason why I watch those films is because it's an artistic illustration of what they want to do. They want to bring the purge. They want to break down the institution of law enforcement. They want to encourage crime. They want to make things more and more dangerous for the average person. And I think that's what they really want to do. They want to promote lawlessness. Pride Month to Pride Season. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. America balkanized for each race unless they just kill each other. No, no, that's bullshit, man. It's not just about race, dude. It's about ideology. Because you have you have conservative blacks who hate all this left wing garbage. You got right wing, conservative Hispanics in the United States. It's not just about race, it's ideology. This time it just won't be North versus South. Yeah, that's possible. I think because so many Yankees or so many Northerners and Democrats are moving to the South, you're probably right. I think it's going to be I think there's going to be pockets of war. It's not going to be like everywhere in the country. I think there's going to be pockets of insurgency, pockets of violence in the United States. Things look bad for the USA from the outside. Yeah, they do. It looks worse from the inside because I'm living in it. I'm living in it. And America is such an armed country. It's what makes it so scary. We have hundreds of millions of weapons roaming, that have flooded the country. You have, I think it's like 7 guns for each man, for each citizen or something like that. Like it's a crazy amount of guns we have here. And with such an armed population, I mean, a civil war would be just absolutely devastating. Are you Sony or Xbox? Well, for now, I'm Xbox. I'll probably get the PS5 later. Racial conflicts in cities, I bet, very mixed population. Yeah. It's not just that. It's you have. Yeah, I think. Well, it does. I think that does play a huge role. You have high rates of crime, and then you have a lot of white folks who don't like the crime. They put the blame on the blacks, and then you also have, like for example, in Seattle, you have a huge homelessness problem, and a lot of people there hate it. Democrats tend to be more sympathetic to the homeless. Righties have no sympathy at all for the homeless. So perhaps the homelessness crisis in these Democrat states would spark people to becoming more right wing. I'll tell you guys a funny story. I remember years ago, and I'm fidgeting with this thing right now. That's the kind of person I'm a very fidgety person. I can't stand still. Well, I can. I just need something to fidget with. I remember years ago, I went to the Whole Foods, the store. It's where the liberals like to shop. Such broad generalizations, I know. And there was a lady there. She was complete lib, tattoos. I think, and then she was telling me about how she made a trip to California, and I said, "Oh, what part of California?" And she said, "Oh, San Francisco." I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm very familiar with San Francisco. And I said, "Oh, what'd you think of it?" She says, "Oh, it's nice. Too many homeless people." And this is a girl who looked like a damn hipster. Sick of the homeless problem. And I think she said the same thing about Austin, like too many homeless people in Austin, way too many homeless people. So the homeless crisis could lead people to becoming more right wing, not in the sense that they're going to be pro life, but in the sense that they're going to want some politician just to clear the homeless people out and to bring crime down. But they'll still be like pro LGBT, they'll still be pro abortion, they'll still be pro drugs. But they'll just want big government to clean the homeless problem out. I don't blame people for getting tired of homeless people harassing them. I don't blame people for that. But I will say that a right-wing surge could be used for destructive purposes. Things look bad. Okay, I already read that. What is your opinion on interfaith dialogue? Something happened here. Hold on. Especially, okay, what is your opinion on interfaith dialogue, especially between Christians and Muslims? Is it necessary? Do we need to adopt an ecumenical spirit? I think that dialogue between Christians and Muslims is a good thing. If that maintains peace, does that mean that we should say that Muslims and Christians worship the same God? No, I don't believe that at all. But I think that having dialogue with Muslims is not a bad thing at all, because you're not going to convert the whole Muslim world. You're not going to tell. It's like people who live in, let's say, Egypt, where you have a very high Christian population, very large Christian minority within a Muslim majority, and there are dialogues between Coptic Christians and Muslims. Okay, because imagine you're living in a country where millions of Muslims are around you. It's better to have some sort of harmony than have constant agitation. But I don't think that means that we should compromise our beliefs, but to have friendly dialogue with people isn't bad. There are more guns than people. Yep. A straight up gun ban would be bad. Yeah, it would be. I don't agree with it with a gun ban. You're not going to take hundreds of millions of guns out of the population. It's impossible. And if you were to try to force that, I mean, you would just be asking for a damn near insurrection. But the issue with that, I believe, I think the problem really isn't necessarily guns. It's the culture. I kind of laugh when I hear Americans say, like, well, in Switzerland, everybody has a gun and they don't have the murder rate that we do. Yeah, that's true, because they're not Americans. You can't compare Switzerland to the United States. It's not really the gun, it's the people. Like, if everybody had a calm demeanor, you could have all the guns in the world here. You wouldn't have to worry about it. The problem with Americans is that you have a violent streak to them, you have a revolutionary spirit that possesses them because we still glorify the American Revolution. And you got all the guns, and the guns make it easier to commit violence. But again, you can't take away all the guns from these people. So what do? You have to make political concessions to calm people down. You have to, you got to compromise with both sides, left and right, to a certain extent. And that's why we have the system that we have in the United States. That's why we have, we have a system of voting where Congress has Democrats and Republicans, and that way people can feel represented. And that's why we have the Electoral College. I know a lot of people want to get rid of the Electoral College, which is a terrible idea. I actually used to believe that, like, oh yeah, we should get rid of the Electoral College. That way the popular vote will just be the only thing we need. That's a terrible idea now that I think of it, because it's like America consists of 50 states, really 50 countries, different cultures, different regional cultures. And if you give everything to the popular vote, and if you remove the Electoral College, then the states aren't going to have a say so. It's just going to be how many people we can get to vote for this politician. And Democrats would dominate because you could just take all the votes from California, take all the votes from New York, and you would just dominate the popular vote. And the smaller, more conservative states like Nebraska or the Dakotas or the Carolinas, they wouldn't have any say-so because their populations aren't as big. And Texas would be, the only major leverage point for conservative states. And you would just divide the country up viciously. So by having every state has a number of votes depending on their population, and it gives them more of a voice. Let's see here. Do you think an armed war with China will ever happen? With the rising China, NATO is no. There's never going to be a war between the U.S. and China. It's not going to happen. Just cut it out. Not going to happen. Well, for one thing, like, what is the point of going to war with China? What are you going to gain? I've been hearing about this war, this hypothetical war between the U.S. and China my whole life. My own great grandmother used to complain about the Chinese. She said they were robbing us. The fact is that poor countries like Iraq and Afghanistan psychologically exhausted the United States. Psychologically exhausted the United States. Americans were tired of hearing about IEDs. Americans were tired of hearing about dead American soldiers. Americans were tired of seeing coffins draped with American flags. Now, that was just Iraq and Afghanistan. Think about going to war with frickin' China, where you have different climates. You have huge terrain, huge country, 1 billion frickin' people, tons of Chinese people, both nationalistic and communistic, who would just love to have a chance to kill an evil American imperialist capitalist. America is not that stupid. Like, America's dumb in many senses, but America's not that dumb. Why the hell would America want to go to war with the Chinese when we had difficulty enough just having a war with the Afghans and the Iraqis? It's not going to happen. There's no way America is going to go to war with China. And for what reason? China hasn't attacked us. There's no attack on American soil, and China is all the way up there in Northeast Asia. They ain't going to be invading the United States. I mean, you could defeat the Chinese army, but then you would have to deal with insurgents. Do you really want to deal with a bunch of Chinese fanatics, Chinese peasants who have nothing to lose because they're so poor, and they get their hands on guns, they can make bombs? Chinese people are not weak people. They're very tenacious people. I mean, think of it this way, just to give you guys some perspective. The Japanese managed to invade most of China, butchered around 10 million Chinese people. And the Japanese still had difficulty fighting the Chinese. They still had difficulty controlling the Chinese. There was one battle. Oh, I forgot the name of this battle. There was one battle where the Chinese managed, a Chinese militia managed to butcher tens of thousands of Japanese soldiers. I want to say, I forgot the name of this battle, but the Chinese butchered tens of thousands of Japanese soldiers using guerrilla warfare tactics. And what they did was the Chinese occupied this castle, they occupied this fortress full of ammunition. Japanese came, would hit this fortress with everything they had. Meanwhile, the Chinese are up in the top story of this fortress, just picking these Japanese soldiers out. Japanese run out of ammo. They say, okay, we got to go back and get some more ammo. As they're going back to their main camp, Chinese militants, Chinese guerrillas are on the sides in the bushes, just taking all these Japanese soldiers out. It was a slaughter. And that was from calculative planning on the part of the Chinese fighters. So no, America's not going to go to war with China. It's not going to happen. America's not that freaking suicidal. Okay, what else do we have here from you guys? Why do you think there is a concerted effort to make white people ashamed of themselves by minorities? What is behind the conspiracy? There is definitely this sort of thing that's happening. I don't think it's as ubiquitous as some people make it out to be, but it is definitely there. It has more of a stronger presence on the internet. I honestly think that the conspiracy behind it is just to piss white people off. It's what they call a strategy of tension, an SOT, because then the righties on the white side could say, "Hey, look, they hate us. Let's support Nazism." That's my opinion. I shop at Whole Foods too. We call it whole paycheck. Yep. Yeah, it's ridiculously expensive there. Hello, Ted. Long time no see. Hello, Charles Aznavour. You're the Romanian guy in France. Military-wise, China isn't good. Very subpar tech, but only thing about China has going for is its economy. That, yeah, you're correct. I would agree with that. Yes, their military isn't that advanced. It's not. It would lose to an American armed force. It would lose to the U.S. military. But the question is not could America defeat the Chinese military? It's how could America control China? Doubtful there would be an open war with China. There's too many complex huddle. Yep, yeah, I agree. The U.S. is declining, and it's only a matter of time until China replaces them. The U.S. is definitely declining, but I don't think it's like a matter of time before China replaces the U.S. I think it's a matter of time before China gets its ass kicked against its neighbor Japan. That's what I'm waiting for. That's why foreign country is afraid to invade U.S. Yep, absolutely. America would be a very difficult country to control, very difficult country to invade as well. You have to go through. We're surrounded by two major oceans, Atlantic and Pacific. We have a huge military. We have a defense system that would hit your navy before you could come to us. And then if you do manage to come here, you would have to deal with the entire power of America's military. And then you would have to deal with the civilian population, which is extremely well armed. So, yeah. Nobody would try to conquer America. Yeah, I know. Hi, man. Hope you are doing fine. Yes, I'm doing well. My Norwegian friend. Have you ever heard of ivermectin? No, I have not. Democracy is mob rule, and unfortunately, most people are stupid and easily fooled. Yeah, but the thing about democracy is that it's the result of people being divided. If you have democracy, you're not unified as a country. You're just not. The fact that you have democracy is an indication that you are divided. You're not a united country. A completely united country, or at least a country that's pretty much united, is not going to mind voting for all sorts of things that we would consider medieval. Like, let's just have a leader rule over us and we can all agree that he's great. Let's have a religion be our state religion and we can all agree that that's great. But with democracy, it's like, while this state votes for this state votes for gay rights, abortion rights, marijuana rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This other state says no abortion rights. So people in that state, when they want to get an abortion, they got to go drive to this other state because that state has abortion. It's not a unified country. So democracy is only really a sign that people are not united. It's not really the sign of a healthy country. It's not. The sign of a healthy country is there's a king and everybody loves him. That's the sign of a healthy country. I mean, of course, I don't mean a Hitler, but I mean like a king, like a just king. Now, if you're voting in a dictator like Hitler, yeah, it's not a sign of a healthy country. We have guns in my home strictly for protection. I hope I never have to use them. Target shooting is fun, but that's as far as I go. That's good. I'm glad you don't want to kill anybody. Correct. The problem is culture, drug, and lack of respect towards law. For example, the idea that being a rebel is cool. Yep. And America abounds with this mentality. America glorifies violence. We have a culture of violence. That's why I laugh when I hear conservatives say, like, well, Switzerland's got all the guns and they don't have school shooting. Yeah, because they're not America. America has a culture of violence. We glorify violence. We glorify it. Look at the rap industry. Look at the heavy metal music. It's all full of violence and people listen to it. And there's a huge market for it here. We glorify violence. We do. I still think you overestimate Turkey. While their modernization of their army is worrying, I think they can bite more than they can chew. Yeah, for now, I think you're right. For now, I don't think they're as strong as they may think they are. But I think in the future, as they grow, they will become more and more powerful, especially over the Islamic world. I don't think Turkey's going to invade Europe. Not all of Europe. I think they're going to try to invade the Balkans, but I don't think they're going to invade like England or Germany. I think it's just going to be like World War One. They're going to have certain European allies and they're going to have certain European enemies. They'll fight with some European enemies. Their allies will fight with the other European enemies, or they'll fight the same enemies at the same time. China isn't much of a threat when militarily they're not good and are subpar. They couldn't take over Vietnam after. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. China's a joke. They're not as much of a threat as people think they are. China has economic influence. Yeah, that's it. They have a lot of money. China is modernizing its army, and the U.S. lost war with rice farmers in Vietnam. That's a good point. So do you actually think that Americans want to deal with a bunch of rice farmers in China? Japan was brutal back in the day. Oh my God, they were. And I think that their brutality is still being expressed in their anime, because those anime movies, dear God in heaven, they're so violent. I don't watch that stuff. Do you think the U.S. is heading towards hyperinflation Zimbabwe style? I mean, I wouldn't say it's going to be like Zimbabwe style where they have, the $75 trillion bill. But I think America economically is going to crash, just like it has many times in the past. But I think the United States will recuperate itself because we have a very efficient system that helps rebound our economy. It helps revive our economy because, for example, we have surplus states and we have poorer states, and the surplus states like Texas, California, can help those states that need help economically. Plus, also the United States, the states of America, they trade amongst themselves. So each state has its own economy, and those economies benefit from the other states. Plus, we also have a shareholders economy, in that the people are the biggest investors in America's industry, as opposed to Europe, where the banks are the biggest investors of European industry. So that really does help the United States in the long run. That's why when I heard about I'm starting to talk like a Russian. When I heard about, remember that conspiracy that was very popular last year, the Great Reset? The Great Reset was all about destroying the shareholder economy, shareholder capitalism of the United States, and trying to make America adopt a more European system. And it's just disastrous. It's disastrous because what helped America, what helped American industry was during the '08 crash, what helped America's industry was the fact that people are the ones who are investing in companies, not banks. Whereas in Europe, you have all these businesses and companies that are getting their money from banks that are being invested in by banks. And when the banks crash, the companies either die or they're gutted out. Your videos on Turkey really opened my eyes a bit. Didn't know Turkey was that influential. Oh, thank you very much. I try to be as educational as possible. Let's see here. China hold almost all rare mineral stuff for making all technology and military weapons. Yeah. China does have a lot of leverage. Gaia Su Orthodox Christos. Democracy is the most chaotic type of government. Yeah, because it's the result of a divided society. I'm a monarchist. Call me old-fashioned. Monarchies are last centuries. Republics burn out quickly. You do have a point there. America, yep. The gaming community, such violence for games, and they look so real. Yeah, it's true. Do you think the U.S. is heading towards another civil war? I think so. Liberals and conservatives hate each other. Yeah, I think America's headed for another civil war. It's only a matter of when it's going to happen. God help us when it does. We're going to be living in like a movie. It's going to be like A Quiet Place, but worse. Have you ever read any of George Friedman's books? Partially, yes. I have two of his books, one on the revival of Japan and one on the revival of Turkey and Germany, which they're all very fascinating. China will conquer you by invading you with people. Well, I hope more and more Chinese people come to the US, to be honest with you. I hope we have more and more Chinese Americans. I think Chinese Americans are awesome. They don't commit lots of crime. They're very law-abiding people. They have a huge respect for education. They have a huge respect for business and making money. They have a much better concept of family than most Americans do. So if China wants to flood the US with Chinese people, by all means, please do so. I pray to God that America gets more Chinese people. Has the Eastern Orthodox countries ever been involved with supporting tyrannical dictators who commit violence on perceived enemy communities? What? Tyrannical dictators? Probably. I don't know. The Soviet Union, I know, backed some pretty evil people, but the Soviet Union was atheist, so I don't know. My grandpa's small town already has Chinese. He is in the middle of Mexico. That's cool, dude. He's in the middle of Mexico. I was in Jalisco. I lived in Jalisco for over a year, and there were Chinese people there as well. I had no issues with them at all. They caused no problems. I'd rather have Chinese people than a bunch of savage narcos any day. Japan is doomed nation with declining birth rates and a hell of a lot of work culture. I've heard this before many times. Japan has a huge population. They got like 130 million people or something. And they have by the way, I mean, Japan has a pretty large navy as well, bigger than the navy of the UK. Falun Gong has full backing of the CIA, so they do live very nicely. I have no idea what you're talking about. What do you think of Pope Francis writing a letter to the gay Jesuit? Oh, yeah, I wrote about this. I think it's disgusting, but it doesn't surprise me at all. Pope Francis is not a pope. He's just I don't know. He's a reflection of just how decayed the Catholic Church is. He's proof that the Catholic Church is a decayed body. It's dying. It's going down the road of the Pharisees, bottom line. Doesn't surprise me at all. This is the same Pope who said we need gay unions, so not too crazy about the Pope. How long do you think Soros and those billionaires who fund those leftist causes will last? How can they be stopped? They're not going to be stopped. There's just too many of them. There's too many liberals in America. I don't know. How can they be stopped? I don't know. Maybe you can answer me that question. I don't know. Turkey is a giant on feet of clay. Yeah. Japanese birth rate decline is a myth. Their birth rates are way better than China. That's why in the future Japan will have. Yeah, I agree. Japan has. I mean, China actually has a huge demographic problem because they have no women. You have like what 6 men per woman in China or something like that. It's insane. You got. I mean, they have so little women in China that you have Chinese people going to Russia to find women. And Japan, on the other hand, has a very well. I mean, their quality of life is much better than China, and Japanese people make more money. They're just healthier, economically speaking. They have more economic wellness than the average Chinese person does. I would say Japan is more powerful than China. What is your opinion, right? Night Watchman state or minarchism is compatible with real world? I don't know what's minarchism. I don't know what that is. China culturally is very sad, very disenfranchised people, and work to the bone. Yep. And the average Chinese person doesn't make a lot of money. They're not economically healthy. Francis is a Jesuit. Jesuits are Masons. I wish you could prove that. Give me some evidence. 50 million more men than women. I lived in China for 5 years. 50 million more men than women. Okay. Yeah, they have more men than women. That's what I was saying. Chinese like children, but they are so used to one child, they just prefer having one. They can keep more money. Yep, and that policy will eventually be their downfall, though, because we're all the women. They're all gone. I'm gonna stay for. I gotta get going in a little bit here, but I can stay for a little bit longer. But the thing about Turkey is that Turkey is so hated by other countries. They're loved by many Muslim countries, but hated by like a lot of people in the Balkans hate them. I mean, it's going to be difficult for Turkey to try to make an empire again. But I think they'll do it. They'll be successful to a great extent. China implemented 3-child policy now, yeah, because they destroyed themselves with their 1-child policy. So now they're like, yeah, have 3 children now instead of 1. Which I think the whole idea of government controlling how many kids you have is just so freaking insane. It's so insane. You can't regulate birth. The Spartans tried to do that and they depopulated themselves. There's no more Spartans. Oh, no, they are. I'm from Athens and I tested positive for Spartan genes. Okay, but you're not. There's no Spartans. It's like people who say, well, I got some Aztec blood in me. There's no Aztec empire. It's gone. What's your opinion about extraterrestrials? Could life exist in other planets? I don't think they are extraterrestrials. I almost married a Chinese girl. Her mom made her get rid of me by going on a hunger strike. I believe that. I can totally see that happening. Communism wants to control everything in your life. It never works. Nope, it does not. You can't control people. People don't like being controlled. That's the thing. People don't like, naturally, we don't like people controlling us. We don't like people coming up and telling us what to do. That's why I never really realized why people would want to live in an association that has really stringent rules, like grass can't be more than 3.5 inches or something. And then you have some psychopath come to your house and with a ruler and he's measuring the blades of grass on your front lawn. It's insane. Or like God forbid you plant a magnolia tree, and they say, well, no, you're supposed to only plant crepe myrtles or some BS like that. You can only plant the trees on the list that we gave you when you bought the house. Didn't you read it? Can't have chickens because it's against the rules. Can't have a vegetable garden because it's against the rules, guys. It's against the rules. Like, I would lead an insurgency if I had to live under that kind of tyranny. That's disgusting. Turkey has a love-hate relationship with Iran. Yep, it does. It does. I mean, they both want power, but at the same time, they don't mind. They don't mind joining forces. Against the Arabs. They hate the Arabs. Would you ever visit Mount Athos? I think it's very difficult to get there, right? Like, don't you need a special visa or something? So I'm probably not going to go there anytime soon. Minarchism is when government provides basic government national security needs, rest for capital. Provide basic government national security needs. Oh, you mean like a total free market except for national security? No, I think you need some government regulation. Because like corporations will start dumping all their chemicals and crap in the ocean. You need some kind of regulation. By the way, you're from Canada, right? You're calling me from Canada, but do you have an ethnic background? I'm just interested. Just curious. Persians are one sect of Islam and the Turks something else. Yep. Yeah, you're out. No. I completely agree with you there. That's true. I don't disagree with that. Because let's not forget, the Persians were invaded by the Arabs, so they hate the Arabs. And the Turks, they're kind of a mix between Sunni and Shiite, and they also hate the Arabs because the Arabs, with the help of the British, defeated them during World War I. So the Turks want to get back at the Arabs, and they want to control the Arabs. Do you think Japan will reinvade like World War II? They changed history textbook. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that Japan will go back in the war path, yes, and we'll have a war with China again. But that's the thing, no one's talking about that. That's the thing that always drives me crazy, is that you'll see these documentaries and they're like the decline of the American empire. Like, okay, that sounds interesting, so I'll start watching it. And they'll say things that are true, like America is declining as an empire, but then they'll say things like China is rising and it's going to replace America. It's like, what is this, John Hagee? This is some 700 Club BS. It's so stupid. No, it's not. But no one ever wants to talk about like the rise of Japan. There are very few people who've talked about the rise of Japan. George Friedman is probably the only geopolitical analyst that I've seen talk about this. People in China will tell you that Japan's rising up. People in Korea will tell you that. South Korea, they'll tell you, oh yeah, Japan's rising again. How can we get the North Koreans and the South Koreans to reunite? If Japan rises up, I wouldn't doubt the North and South will probably unite just to crush the Japs. If you may informed your audience on ISIS, where did they go? Where did they go? They went to the NATO headquarters to wait their turn again. They're still there. They're still around. They're just, sometimes they go by different names. Like, there's other groups that have popped up, and a lot of these ISIS fighters have absorbed themselves into these different groups. But much of ISIS has been controlled by the Russians and even by the Turks. Pingo Singo, where are you from? Just curious. You do have Michael Savage's style of storytelling. It's interesting that you bring that up, because when I was younger, I used to listen to Michael Savage every day after school. So I was heavily influenced by his way of storytelling. So yes, you are correct. I do definitely take things from him stylistically. I had a neighbor like that actually brought out a ruler to measure because I was mowing too close to her yard. Dude, do you still live in this neighborhood? I mean, I would love to learn more about this. You can just visit Mount Athos. Okay. Hopefully, God willing. My guess is Turkey will invade Saudi Arabia. Arabia has oil. Yep. I agree. Does Turkey and Israel have a good relationship or no? I've heard Israel. I mean, there's definitely like political tensions going on between Israel and Turkey, but business wise, I mean, they still make money with each other. but that could change. Just because two countries are trading partners doesn't mean they're not going to go to war with each other. You know, before the outbreak of World War II, the Germans and the Brits were making money with each other. The Japanese and the Americans had close ties. They had treaties. All went flying out the window at the end of the day. But where Turks scare me, I will confess, is that they are a lot of them here in Europe. Yeah, I know. The biggest Turkish diaspora is in Germany. There's over 3 million Turks in Germany. Germany is basically integrating itself with Turkey. Pretty soon they'll just be one country, or they'll just be so close that it'll be as if they're one country. I was born in India. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought this guy is like Pakistani or Indian. I can tell by the way you write. No judgment, no insult. I'm just saying. I can always tell when, just by looking at how someone writes, I can tell if they're from North America or not. Like, for example, the mayor of Strasbourg, which is a Muslim woman, tried to build the biggest mosque in Europe, though Turkey's funds, but it through Turkey's funds. But it was thankfully canceled. Yeah. Doesn't surprise me at all. That's why the EU is so close to Turkey. The EU is not going to drop Turkey anytime soon. They're very close to each other. So Iranians rushed to the tomb of Cyrus the Great and they bowed down to him while screaming, "We are not Arabs, we are Aryans." Yep, that's correct. They see themselves as Aryans. Think about it. If your people were invaded by Arabs, you would have generational hatred against the Arabs. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Speaking of rebellious spirit, the most costly war was waged in China. Remember, the guy who claims to be the brother of Jesus, the most costly war always has some heretic involved. I don't know what you're referring to. Turkey really hates Israel. The Zionists conspired with the British to take over Palestine and make Israel. Turkey sees those Jews as traitors. The Jews lived in Turkey in peace for many years. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Mein Kampf was the number one bestseller back in 2005, 2006, so it doesn't surprise me. There's tons of people in Turkey who are Nazis. There's tons of Turkish Nazis. Go look up the Grey Wolves. Big paramilitary organization in Turkey. They're all Nazis, all of them. Straight up Nazis, straight up influenced by Mein Kampf. Turkey's ideology is like, it's basically Islamofascism. And that term Islamofascism has been used for years to define all Islamic terrorists, and I don't agree with that, because Islamic terrorists they're not racist. They're fanatics, but they're not racist. But Turks are. So I would say that Turkey is Islamofascist. Japan is building their ships again. I think US allow them to build their absolutely. It's all part of NATO's policy to use Japan as a proxy against the Chinese. I'm from Sweden, but I'm half Armenian. Oh, okay, cool. Half Armenian and Thai. Oh, that's cool. I like Michael Savage. That's cool. I used to listen to Savage. Yeah, man. I think all of us used to listen to Savage at one point. Like all American conservatives who were born, I don't know, in 1990 and prior to that, they probably know who Michael Savage is. He was like the third or fourth largest talk radio host in the United States. Now, I mean, he's making cooking videos on Instagram, so not as big as he used to be. Same town, but different neighborhood. Is the neighborhood you're in now, is it better than it was before? The West has Christianity and the concept of just war. The Japanese are not so much. Yeah, that's why they raped and butchered millions of people. Nagasaki or Hiroshima, can't remember, but one of those cities was full of Catholics and they got bombed. Yeah, I know. It's the brutality. It's the reality of war. Do you think the EU will break apart if they? It's already breaking apart. The British left. I mean, that's the beginning. It's already breaking apart. I think that the EU, like the status quo of the EU, is better than what these like right wing fascists or these militarists in Europe want. The militarists want a pan European confederacy, led by Germany, and they want to see Europe, Germany, return as a global force again. So with Brexit, you have the Germans completely unhindered as to what they want to do. German need Turkey to access the Middle East. Yeah, and I think also this canal that Turkey wants to build, I think that's part of a German conspiracy or some kind of I mean, I can't prove that, at least not now, but I think that it's part of I think in the future it'll be used by the Germans to enter the Black Sea. That's if it gets built. What's the deal with Christianity in Japan? Only 1%. Yeah, Japanese people are super resilient to Christianity. Like they're very resistant. They hate Christianity. Chinese people are way more open to Christianity. What do you think it's going to happen to South America in the future? Will those guys have a super? No, I don't think there ever will be a superpower in South America. South Americans are so divided as a people. There's a lot of communism there, but there's also a lot of right wing weirdness down there as well. I mean, when I was living in Mexico, I can't tell you like the amount of people I met who sympathized with the Third Reich, and these were like left wing Mexicans. And the reason why they sympathize with the Third Reich is it because they're like super educated on the subject of national socialism. National socialism. It's because they just hate America. Because they'll also sympathize with the Soviet Union. They'll sympathize with anything that hates America. And they're very poor. And the problem is that all the wealth that is in South America is concentrated to a small group of people. It's not distributed in a healthy way as it is here in the United States. I mean, in the United States, we have like way better quality of life than most people in South America. So, no, I think Mexico is practically a joke when it comes to their military. A bunch of narcos were able to defeat so many soldiers in Mexico. I'm talking about Hong Si Quan. You got to remind me, man. I've written so many articles. Iran invented chess and they had incredible empires. They are the brightest people in the Middle East. I would say that Persians are very good in music, super good. They're very creative people. They're not dumb people at all. They're not dumb at all. No. A lot of potential in Iran. Do you think it's a good idea to kick out Soros and billionaires? I mean, I don't think it would do like I don't think it would make any difference. You kick out George Soros, okay, where's his wealth gonna go? You're gonna take all of his wealth, you're gonna confiscate it. If you do that, then you might as well if you start doing that, then some Democrats are gonna be like, yeah, let's take these right-wing billionaires, let's take these super wealthy conservatives like the Mercers, and let's throw them out and take their wealth. I mean, I don't really see the purpose of that. Iran invent. Okay, I already read that. I listen to Savage and Rush Limbaugh. Savage gets more insane every year. Yeah, Rush Limbaugh is so boring though. Rush Limbaugh is super boring. I don't like listening to him. It's just like liberals are bad, Democrats are bad, conservatives are just great. He's not with us anymore, so I don't want to. I just forgot that he died. Actually, I just forgot that. I don't want to mock the dead, but I wasn't a huge fan of his. Did Alex Jones inspire you? Nope, not at all. Never got any inspiration at all from Alex Jones. Although I did enjoy his indie song. He didn't make it, but some of his fans made an indie song based off of excerpts from Alex Jones. And it was like, I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murdering scum. Christian murdering scum. With giant death factories eating babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? Yeah, go look it up. Alex Jones song. It's hilarious. What will Spain's role be in the future? Probably a war within itself, especially with the rise of Catalonian nationalism. It's better. No crazy neighbors like that lady. I'm sorry. If you go to someone's lawn and start measuring their grass, you're a psychopath. I wouldn't doubt you have dead bodies in your closet. You're a psychopath. I wonder how many are proud of the Pope. You'd be shocked how many people love that guy. I love Pope Francis. He's amazing. He inspires me. There's a lot of that goes on. I am from Latin America. Latin America will continue to be poor and a mess for many years to come. However, we will get more and more Canadians and Americans who are tired of their governments. Do you think false prophet in the Bible would be Jewish? Wouldn't surprise me at all. If the Jews were the ones who crucified Christ, then the Jews are going to have a role in the Antichrist, with the Antichrist, because the Pharisees were Antichrist. They murdered Christ. They were literally like the epitome of what it means to be Antichrist. Brazil is the strongest country in Latin America. Well, that doesn't really say much because people in Brazil are running up to the United States. Just walk into any jiu-jitsu school. It's full of Brazilian immigrants. How was life in Mexico? It was very peaceful. There wasn't a lot of, and I never saw crime when I was there. I'd walk around at 2 a.m. full of people. It didn't start getting bad until maybe like 2009, 2010. And then it got really nasty in like 2013, 2014, maybe 2012 as well. It was getting nasty. We have a love-hate relationship with the U.S. Okay. Thoughts on Operation Paperclip and the Catholic Church? Paperclip, basically America helping Nazis as a way to use them as proxies against the Soviet Union. I think that it's a terrible idea, just morally speaking, to give a 6-digit figure salary to people who were involved with slavery and murder. I just think that's wrong, regardless of what opinion, like regardless of the justification that you provide, where they're like, yeah, we can use these scientists to help the Soviet Union, but to like take people who are actual murderers, Nazis who were murderers, and people who ran slave labor camps, like Brown and like Mr. I don't remember his name. He was a guy who was involved in the Ravensbrück experiments with Polish girls. But we put that guy in San Antonio, gave him a big salary. He got a job in the Air Force Base in San Antonio. And then once the public knew who this guy was, then America's like, oh, send him off to Argentina. Will African sub-Saharan nations ever get their stuff straight, or they will remain in a bad state? They will remain in a bad state because Africa can't really take care of itself. This is the bottom line. Look at African countries under European governments, and they did way better. Something that not being talked in U.S. MSM, the EU has a huge neo-Nazi research. Yep, it does. Just look at what's happening with the German police. Look how many thousands of officers have been revealed to be Nazis within the German police force alone. I do not think the Pope is Catholic. I just want to ask your thoughts on the Catholic Church and how they have discovered over 1,000 unmarked graves. I have no idea, man. I got to look that up. I actually have to get going, guys. I got to go walk the dog. So there is a CIA office in Hollywood, influence movie industry. Have you heard of E. Michael G? Yes, I have. What do you think of him? I swear every week somebody asks me about this. I think the guy makes good points. I just think that he could be used for justifying things like Nazism. But anyway, I got to get going, guys. Maybe I'll come back and resume. But I may have to cook dinner. I don't know. But I may be back. But I got to get going. All right. See you guys later. God bless.